Welcome again to Track versus Track. I'm Jacob Rosdale. This time, I'm joined by Sox fans, it looks like, Matthew Jensen, and extra special guest, Chris Thomas. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. This is fun already. I'm a teacher, so I get to teach podcasts. I teach radio and TV. I don't usually get to be on them. So this is fun for me. So thank you. I appreciate the invitation and the fun connection that I will let you guys talk about why you picked me here.
I will let Matt, because this was entirely Matt's idea and I just went along with it.
Oh, that's not true. This was your album selection.
Well, this was I'll get to that. I want to get to why Chris is here because I think this is going to cause all sorts of fun YouTube searches and people getting excited. No offense, Chris.
Not looking for me. No, God, no.
Well, so Chris had always been a guy, and Jacob and I talked about you, Chris, about hosting an episode with us. And for whatever reason, Jacob had suggested the Pretenders album because we were lacking, I think, female, well, other than the B-52s, I think this is the only other female.
And still, she's kind of outnumbered a little. And Linda McCartney. Don't forget her.
That's true. But obviously, Chrissy Hines she is the leading force behind the Pretenders. So with the B-52s, that's debatable, right? If the female focus is really the forefront. But looked at the Wikipedia page for this debut album, and it was produced by the legendary producer Chris Thomas, who's I'm not going to.
Who's not me.
Right, not you. But I was like, you know what? Is this karma? Maybe. Is this kismet? Is this fate? I think it is. So I sent Chris a message and he graciously accepted. And Chris, so what is your background with this album? Because for me, I've owned this CD for a number of years. I got this box set about, I think it came out last year. Got a sweet deal on it. I think like an Amazon Lightning deal. But I actually didn't even own the vinyl. I just got this a couple days ago. But my experience with this is I knew some of the hits, but that was about it. What about you? What is your background?
My experience with the Pretenders is pretty much the hits. I used to work at a classic rock radio station, so you played the ones that people liked. Not a lot of B-sides, not a lot of unknown hits, right? So mostly the hits. I hadn't listened to most of the music in years though. When you said that, the Pretenders, are you familiar with the album? I'm like, familiar with, yeah, but not super familiar. So it was nice to go back and listen to it. But I didn't know I was such a prolific producer, by the way. So talk about YouTube rabbit hole. I went right down it as well. I was like, wait, what else have I done? I'm like, I worked with the Beatles.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, Chris Thomas, the producer's got quite the record.
Yeah, when George Martin went on vacation during the White Album, Chris Thomas slotted right in, and produced some of the really big songs off the White Album.
Yeah, Happiness is a Warm Gun, I think he did. And
my favorite song. I've ranked the tracks off of the White Album on my own YouTube page, and Jacob and I are going to do those again. And so this may change when we do that, but Happiness is a Warm Gun came in #1 on the White Album, and then I did my top 25 Beatles songs, and that came in at #2. So that's how high I put that song up in my Beatles appreciation.
Yeah, and if you don't know who he is as a producer, like you said, after this episode, go down the YouTube rabbit hole. If nothing else, you'll listen to some great music, because that's what I ended up doing, is like on a Spotify playlist, looking at music he's produced, and I was like, oh, this is all good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'll admit, I didn't know you, Chris. And when Matt was like, should we have Chris Thomas on? He produced Pretenders. And I was like, well, probably maybe some Wartburg alumni produced some lame, like one member of the Pretenders, but side group or whatever. So I didn't get the joke at first. And then I was like, okay,
I am not a 75-year-old British man. I'm sorry.
As we mentioned, I picked this album, but I was not at all familiar with it. I had to pick, I saw this in a record store. I was like, hey, Matt, why don't we do Pretenders? And then I bought it. And then I've been listening to it. It is often on greatest albums of all time lists. It is also on greatest debut album, like it's considered one of the better debut albums. My hot take is going to be, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, is that it definitely feels to me like a band who doesn't quite know what they are yet.
And this album really does have kind of a Jekyll and Hyde quality to it, and you could even really delineate that from side 1 to side 2, I think, in terms of the genre or the style. Like, what exactly is this album? Is it a punk album or is it a new wave album? You know, and I think the songs are very, you know, polar from each other, and I think the sides really do kind of help sort that out in a way.
And some people will see that as a feature and not a bug. But I see Learning to Crawl, which when you and I were messaging, Matt, you mentioned you like Learning to Crawl much better than Pretenders 2. That album I picked up as well. And I'm like, oh, and I listened to it. It's a much more cohesive album. I don't know if it's the highs are as high, but that's the one with more of the hits.
I'm on the fence too, because Ryan, is it Rhino? Yeah, Rhino released these. Let me show this really quickly. So this is just the remastered vinyl. This was the box set. They released Pretenders and Pretenders 2. And basically inside you get a booklet and you get media that has outtakes, demos, isolated tracks, some interviews, and then it's all kind of cased in this hard box. But one of the things I really like about it is the slimness of it, because you can stick it with your LPs. It's the same size as a vinyl. Little taller maybe, but you know, a lot of times nowadays they do these boxes and you get the vinyl and you get the CDs and the Blu-ray audio, but this one just had well, this is what you get in it. However, the price was not bad. It was like $30 for all that media and a booklet, you know, with great pictures of the band. I mean, just fantastic. So if you're into reading about artists and looking at them, then these like I said, I didn't buy the second volume because I just don't like that album as much. But I think this exercise, having really deep dived into this album, I think I'm gonna splurge and buy the second one just as a completist, because I do believe they have plans to release Learning to Crawl as like the third installment. I definitely want that. And you know what? I can't have a hole in that box set collection. No way.
Let's get started. Matt, what did you think of the first track, Precious?
So now, if you were to put this on with no background information about Chrissie Hynde, the Pretenders, by the way, yes, she's from the Midwest, but spent a lot of time in England and was hanging out with the likes of all of those early seminal British punk bands. However, she couldn't break it. She couldn't break it in the punk scene. And then punk, as you know, is over, right? And we are ushering in a new musical genre known as new wave. And this sounds like a holdover from the punk era. I mean, this sounds like it could be a Sex Pistols track. I mean, it's very anthemic. It's very sneering. Her voice is like, it cuts like a hot knife through butter. She throws out the F-bomb there. I mean, it's just really in your face. I love the song. However, I have to think to myself, when I'm ranking my top 3 favorite tracks, I'm probably going to give one to the punk, like the punkish side of the Pretenders. I'm going to give one to the new wave side of the Pretenders. Then, of course, they've got this plethora of poppy, hooky, Beatlesque songs practically. So when I was ranking my top 3, I tried not to, all drop it into one genre. So for me, I put Precious, gosh, and I feel really bad about saying this because I really do like it. I think it's a great opening track to an album. I'm going to put Precious at number 7.
Wow. Chris, where is it for you?
Exactly the same, number 7. I went through the way I went through, because you guys do this on the regular. This is new for me, right? So I listened through and I mentally and then physically wrote out, ranked everything out of 10, every single track, like 8 out of 10, 7 out of, kind of like give it an idea. And in my mind, I was like, this is a really good track. And I think that kind of speaks to what you said, critically and commercially acclaimed. This album is really a popular debut album. It gets highly ranked up there. And I'm like, wow, this is my number 7. I'm like, is that speaking about how bad this song is or how good the rest of the music is? I really like the punk ska feel of it. I was a teen of the 90s. So ska, and I grew up in Chicago, and the ska scene in Chicago was amazing. And this song reminded me of that. Not exactly the same, but it had that kind of energy. to it. So I really liked the song, but yeah, I had it at number 7 still. Just, I thought this was good, but there were better ones on the album, but it was a good opening track. Like if I never knew anything about this and I put the needle on the turntable, I would keep going.
So it's in my top 3 for kind of the reasons you guys are talking about. I knew Brass in Pocket, and we'll get to Brass in Pocket. So when this came on, most pleasant surprise I could have gotten. An honest to goodness punk song, snotty and vulgar. You mentioned the Pistols, Matt. It's basically Holidays in the Sun with the guitar, just like with some distortion in it. And it mentions Howard the Duck. And this is before Howard the Duck was in a movie. So someone, maybe it's Chrissy, is a Steve Gerber fan. And that is nerdy enough. Are you going to look for your Blu-ray of Howard the Duck, Matt?
Yeah, I was definitely looking over my shoulder for it, but that'd be too distracting. But yeah, I have it.
He was trapped in a world he never made. So I don't know. And I wish the rest of the album kept that punk rock. Like that, if there's a problem, it peaks high for me. Track 2 for me is a weird track 2. It's called The Phone Call. Why I say it's a weird track 2, I don't get the concept. Usually, I think we've talked about this, Matt. The second track, it's usually where you put the single, or like this is where you would expect Brass in Pocket, maybe. But it's a weird kind of like her voice is buried in the mix. It has sometimes a weird effect on it. There's a dial tone throughout it. This could add into our list of telephone songs we've been talking about.
What do you have this?
I have it at number 7. How about you?
Oh, I got it much lower. It kind of stays in the same vein though as Precious. This is definitely a punk song, right? You've got those little new wave, like you said, the telephone dial tone or whatever that gives it kind of that futuristic Gary Newman feel to it, right? But it's still at its very core a punk song, very hard driving, but it just doesn't have that memorable hook to it. And for that, I give it number 11 actually. It's my second least favorite track.
Chris.
Number 9 for me. For a lot of the same reasons that you just said. I like the punk sound of it, and it almost sounded a little experimental, like they were going to try like with the sound effects and things. And I don't know if it just wasn't doing it for me. I like that. I thought it was a good follow up to Precious at first because of that punk sound, but then it just, I don't know. I think when the dial tones and the phone stuff came in, I think I was like, I'm out.
And maybe it was kind of genius on the part of the producer too, which is you, right, Chris?
That's what I was going for.
To stick kind of this unmemorable, but not non-offensive song in that kind of that really is special spot on an album, that second track, because I think if it was further down, it would be complete throwaway.
We're going to keep rocking with one of the, what I would call part of a duo, or maybe a trio if you count Precious, of just dirty songs. It's called Up the Neck. Chris, I'll have you start. Do you have any thoughts on Up the Neck?
It was fine. Musically, it was fine. Lyrics are interesting. I was at number 10 on it. And it wasn't, again, this is one I kind of felt bad about, because I was like, well, yeah, that's low, but it's still like, if you were to ask me to rank, compared to other songs, I don't think it would be as low. Just on this particular album, I had it at number 10. It just, I think it also was kind of, I think after The Phone Call, I was kind of not in the mood for Up the Neck, if that makes sense. Because the next one, I ranked much higher, as we'll talk in a second. But but yeah, I think that was part of it. I don't know if it was part of the track placement on the album, because I did listen in order, and that's something we were talking about before we recorded. Do you shuffle or do you listen in order? I went in order because I figured, especially in 1980, there was a reason they put them in this order. If this album came out in 2019 and it was a bunch of singles on Spotify, well, then you could shuffle it. But yeah, I don't know. I wasn't feeling Up the Neck.
Yeah, that's fair. Matt, where do you have it ranked?
Well, if this album represented the Chicago White Sox 1990 batting order, number 3, the 3-hole, we got the Big Hurt, Frank Thomas, right? Best player on the team, arguably the best player of the 90s, one of them anyway. And for me, this song is a top 3. I freaking love Up the Neck. And here's one of the reasons why. We talked a little about Brass in Pocket, even though we haven't gotten to that song yet, how you stick a hot hit, a single, at the beginning of the album, whereas we know that that's, quite a bit further down. That's track 10 on this album. To me, this is kind of like a Brass in Pocket, but it's got a little more edge to it. It's a little harder hitting, it's a little harder driving, but it's still really pop. I think at its core, it's a pop song, right? And it gives you everything you want in a catchy pop song. There's hooks galore, great vocals, but still some attitude. It's not as lightweight as Brass in Pocket. And this song kind of really encompasses everything that is the Pretenders. Are we punk? Are we new wave? Are we pop? We're all, maybe we put them into a blender and we're all three. And I think this song really does signify, in my eyes, what the Pretenders were and are. And so, yeah, this is a top 3 for me. What about you, Jacob?
It's 5. I like it a lot. I think this and Phone Call kind of have a glam element to it, just in the way she sings. I think she's really mimicking a Bowie cadence, like when she does a run of the mill. And I like that. I think the guitar is the best part of it. And it's dirty. It's a dirty song. And that's something like you wouldn't it'd be kind of progressive today. Well, I mean, we're in a post-WAP world, but it's surprising to hear in an album from 1979.
Well, I think there's also an element to the Beatles in this song too, that ding, 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 ding. It's got kind of an arpeggiated type of riff that's very sing-songy, and I think it's kind of has kind of a throwback sound to it, but with more modern production.
Not as throwback, but definitely I think thematically tied is Tattooed Love Boys. Chris already mentioned ska. I didn't know if I could refer to any of it as ska because there's no horns or whatever. But I think Tattooed Love Boys has kind of that ska like intro energy. A little bit. Yeah. And it's even dirtier than Up the Neck. I encourage people to find the lyrics on their own, so I don't have to say them in the podcast. I liked Tattooed Love Boys. It's all about like the punk scene and going in the back rooms and doing stuff. Top 3 for me. How about you, Chris?
This one I got at number 6. And it's not, I think any of my, I'll put a warning out there. Any of my top 6 could be top 3. No. Like it was really, that was the tougher part of this review for me was 7 through 12. I was kind of like, yeah, these feel right in 7 through 12 and these feel right in 1 through 6. And then I was like, oh, because like I told you guys, I did like an 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, and then I did notes. And this song, like it's a 9 out of 10 on my scale. Then I get there and I'm like trying to rank them in order. And I'm like, there's a lot of 9 out of 10s on this album. And this was one of them. I liked it was upbeat. It was fast. It had that energy to it. And then I think for me, the thing that I was worried about when I started overthinking it was, did I like this song so much because it was following Up the Neck, which I didn't like. But then I still like it though. I went back and re-listened to it. I just, yeah, it had that energy. The dirtiness didn't bother me. You should read the lyrics. That's fun. But the radio person in me who teaches radio was like, oh no. We can't say that.
We can't run that.
That can't go on the radio.
Yeah, this one's okay for me. I have it at number 8. Kind of continues the string of punk songs. I mean, this is, I think, if you consider Up the Neck a punk song, which I think that's kind of borderline. I think that's the lightest song on side 1, but I'll still throw it in the punk realm. But yeah, if I were to rank this song, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a solid 7 or 8 for me. I would put it in the very good category, but this album just has so many heavy hitters. So yeah, it feels bad to stick it so low. I do like the song, but number 8. How about you, Jacob?
I said it was in my top 3.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
You were in Spaceland. Speaking of Spaceland, let's talk about Space Invaders or Space Invader. What's it called? Yeah, it's just called Space Invader. They didn't want to get sued. So they do, they sample, I believe, the video game at the very end. I struggle with instrumentals because I'm not a musician. And I think it's a very listenable instrumental. I think it's a cool one. I couldn't hum it for you right now, though. And it does feel like it's a cool intro waiting for a song to start. And that's like when I'm sometimes with instrumentals, I'm like, did they just forget or not bother to write lyrics, or did they run out of time, or they had to pad? They were, committed to 12 tracks and had to put something in there. Matt usually disagrees with me though. So where's Space Invader for you?
Yeah, I do like it. Once again, if I could put this, if this album was crappy, I would probably put this pretty high, but it's the instrumental, so I knock it for that, even though I'm not a lyrics guy. Goes on a little too long, but it's definitely not a skipper. It's got a great groove to it. I have it at number 10.
Yeah, it's my number 9, I didn't say. Chris?
So I got this one higher than the rest of you. It's at number 4.
Oh.
And I think for all the reasons you just said. It was different. It was listenable. It wasn't skippable. I think I like that. I just think I like that it was different, that it was something out there, that you went from these punk energy high things to a song where I did think what you thought, like, is it going to start soon? Like, oh wait, no, this is the song. It has started. Okay. I don't know. I don't know if they used it to pad or they used it to transition into what the rest of this album is going to get into. Cause it's starting heavy punk. It's going a little less punk, and now it's instrumental, and then we're about to start seeing some new wave things. So I'm like, did they purposely like scale this to take this down a notch with the instrumental? Kind of like, and you segue from one segment to another and you need a little bumper music.
Track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is The Wait, the one I was singing earlier, the and I can't understand a word she's saying. In this one, it sounds cool, and then I did look at the lyrics because I listened to it on my phone, and there's button lyrics, and it's all about beating up a kid. As far as I can tell, it's my number 4. It's just out of my top 3.
It was number 8 on my list,
Oh.
and again, that doesn't speak to that I don't like this song. It speaks to how good the rest of I thought the album was. I couldn't understand a word. I wrote that down too. I'm like, I don't know what she's saying, but I also wrote down good vocals. Like, I liked it. It felt like she matched like the energy of the song, even though I couldn't, sing along with it right now. Actually, I probably could, because you wouldn't understand me either. I like the rhythm. I like the guitar solo in it though. I thought that was nice. It was something after the instrumental to have like this kind of jammy guitar solo in the middle of the song. I thought that was good.
So I gave a top 3 to Up the Neck already, and that for me is kind of the representative from. So they've got there's 3 faces to this band: the pop, the punk, and the new wave. So I give Up the Neck the top 3 for the new wave side of things, and this is my representative in the top 3 for the punky side. Yeah, I love that. They cover their hand over the bridge of the over the neck of the guitar, over the frets, and it's that percussive and just when she goes, oh my baby, yeah, great vocals. Maybe her best punky vocals on this album. She gets a little bit more melodic in the second half of this album, but my favorite punky vocal that she does, and it's also more melodic than Precious, The Phone Call, Tattooed Love Boys. So yeah, if I need to pick my favorite punky style song off this album, it is most definitely The Wait. Top 3, easy pick for sure.
So we are going to close out track A now, or side A, with a Kinks cover, Stop Your Sobbing. You're a big Kinks fan, Matt. What do you think of the Pretenders covering the Kinks?
I actually think this is better than the Kinks version. So this is off of the very first Kinks album, which is just called The Kinks. And, a lot of people know the Kinks of this 1964 period from their singles, right? You Really Got Me, All Day and All the Night, I'm So Tired. This was an album track though, off their British album on the Pye label, PYE, the Pye label. And kind of a throwaway song. A lot of those songs are, very British invasion-y, She Loves You type of songs, but just not to the caliber of the Beatles. So it's interesting that the Pretenders found this song. Well, we know now that, before this album came out, before Chrissie Hynde was even in the public consciousness, she and Ray Davies were a thing, right? And they dated for a number of years and became a high profile, power couple after the success of this album. But, before this album was released, she was not in the public consciousness, right? So yeah, if you've ever listened to the Kinks version, fine song, right? It's a album track from a early 60s British invasion band. And I love the Kinks. You're right. That's top 3 favorite band for me. But I prefer this version. This was the first single off the album. As a matter of fact, it was the first recorded song for this album. And it was not recorded by you, Chris Thomas. This was actually produced by Nick Lowe, who happens to be a top 25 artist for me as well. So if you're familiar with the band Brinsley Schwartz, if you're familiar with the band Rockpile with Dave Edmunds, if you've ever listened to those first several Elvis Costello albums, Nick Lowe produced those. And this song just, rings of those Cruel to Be Kind hooks, very jangly, very, very poppy. I love this song, and it pains me to say it doesn't make my top 3 because this is the pop side of the Pretenders, and I have not picked a top 3 yet, but I'm going to reserve that for a little bit later. So I have this at number 4, just right on the fringe.
I was like, can I really put a cover in my top 3 is where I was at. And I was like, yes, I can, because I like this better. And it's one of the better songs because the structure of it is stronger than a lot of the structures of just Pretender songs. And I've been struggling calling them the Pretenders or Pretenders. There's no the on this, but there's a the
right
on that. Just, someone's going to complain. And so it's in my top 3 because it's a good song. She makes it just a little bit meaner than the Davies do. And it's already kind of a mean song. And I do like how she says sobbing, or she does a little sobbing, or whatever that is she does at the very end. I think it's so cool.
It's in my top 3 too. I had forgotten it was a cover until after, when I listened to it and I was like, oh, I really like the song. And then as I was going back through stuff, I'm like, oh wait, this isn't their song. I mean, it is their song though. And I think that's why it's in my top 3. You said can I struggle with putting a cover in my top 3? And it's a cover, but it's theirs, right? I mean, this is so much the Pretenders version of the song, where there's sometimes when you hear covers, you're like, oh, they phoned it in and just needed a cover, or they're pandering to fans because, they wanted them to do a cover of this band, or they said this is, a lot of times I think covers are like, I really respect this band, so I'm going to put them on my album because they were a big influence for me, something like that. They made it their own, so it's in my top 3.
On to side B, we start off with another single, I believe, Kid. Chris, where's Kid rank for you?
So this one is also in my top 3.
Oh.
So I did not like Matthew. I did not try to just say top. That's a great idea though, because that would have made ranking easier. Top punk, top new wave, top pop, if you will. I just went with what are my faves, and this one was in my top 3. I thought it was now that you say it is the split, I do remember this because I remember thinking this is a good song to kick off the second side of the album. I don't know. I just liked it. It's I think overall I like the more mellow Pretenders. I like the more pop Pretenders. And I'm clearly not alone, because if we look at future albums, we know kind of where they where they landed versus where they started, or where they thought their roots would be. But yeah, just it's a great song.
It's my track 8, but I still like it a lot. I like how it starts. I put in my notes surf rock, but now when I'm remembering how it kicks in, it sounds almost like an earlier REM kind of track, where it's like
Replacements.
Replacements, where it's like it's playing an electric guitar like an acoustic. Yep. That's how it goes. I don't know. When she goes All My Sorrow, I don't know if that's quite the bridge yet, but then the guitars go crunch again. So it doesn't get quite as wimpy as some of the later tracks do. Matthew.
Chris, you and I are simpatico on this. It's a top 3 for me too. This is my representative from the pop style. I love the arpeggiated guitar, very jangly. That guitar hook, down, 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 down. I just love that. Her vocal too is beautiful on this. So later on, we have Chrissy singing a little bit more on the lighter side of her tone, or her timbre. This is, I would say, chesty vocals. It's not like a light falsetto-y type of sound, but she's got this vibrato that comes through, and it's very even, which is funny because when I think of a vibrato that even, I think of Freddie Mercury. Not saying that she sounds like Freddie Mercury, but her vibrato is so even. It's almost like it's manufactured or like engineered, like it was altered slightly with some production quality. But if it wasn't, that's even more impressive because that vibrato is like operatic in a way with a pop sound. And I think it's just absolutely beautiful, but it's not lightweight. She's singing with a very ballad-like, very soft tone to her voice, but the song still has energy, a driving force going forward. Yeah, this is my favorite pop song of the album. I guess we'll find out where it goes, but it's in my top 3.
The next track is called Private Life. It's so freaking boring to me. It's part of a trio of 5+ minute tracks of varying quality for me. And I like slow songs, but I like pretty slow songs. I don't find this pretty at all. This just kind of trudges along, but it's, is it my bottom? Yeah, 12 tracks. It is my bottom track, number 12. Matt's nodding in agreement. It's your number 12 as well?
It's number 12. Yeah, it's a reggae tune, right?
It starts with like a
and it goes on way too long and it goes nowhere. Yeah. Actually, you know what? If it wasn't for this track, my number 11 was the phone call, and my number 10 was Space Invader. And I think those are like 7 or 8 star songs out of 10. This song is like a 2. This song sucks. This song ruined. Honestly, this song kind of kills the album for me. And the 3 songs that come after that I really like, but this song is like dragging my ears to the mud, and it makes me not appreciate those bottom 3 songs because this song blows so hard. I wish this song could be taken out behind the barn and taken out of its misery. I can't stand it. It's
show what that hole's for. Yeah.
It's not only ranked 12, it should be ranked 12 billion. This song sucks.
Chris, do you dare disagree with us?
Well, yeah, no, it's not in my top 3. It's number 12.
Okay.
I put down my notes were too long, and I don't think I put enough O's, N's, and G's on the word long. I started thinking, I'm like, if this song was like 3.5 minutes, like an actual pop style song, would it be any better? And I decided no, that it would be better, but it still wouldn't be anywhere near the quality of the rest of the songs that are on this album. So yeah, it's easy number 12. Like, it should have stayed private.
It bounces back though. The big single, the one song everyone's going to know from this is Brass in Pocket. Does anyone want to talk about Brass in Pocket? Anyone want to volunteer?
I'll start. It's in my top 3.
Yeah.
I tried to not put it in my top 3. As I was ranking things, and I just kept coming back to it, and I'm like, it's a classic, it's a hit. There's a reason why. And my kid, who's 16, I told him I was doing this album, and I said you probably have no idea who this band is, or maybe any of their music. And as he was listening to it with me, that song came on. He goes, oh yeah, I know that song. So I mean, there's a reason why it has staying power of 40 years. It's in my top 3. I won't say where yet, of course. But yeah, it's completely different though, because I will say that's what I knew the Pretenders as, is Brass in Pocket, right? And then when I start listening and you hear Precious, and you're like, whoa, like, is this the same band? Like, it's like, and then you're like, no, the same album even? Like, it's not like they did a punk album and then switched gears. They did a punk side and then switched gears, which I thought was interesting. But yeah, it's in my top 3, even despite me trying to not put it there.
Yeah, that's the big ding I have on it, is that like I've listened, like I didn't listen to this album before, but I have sought out like Brass in Pocket on a streaming service and just listened to that, and I like that song on its own. I know it, I like it, but in the context of the album, I don't like it as much as other tracks. So it's my number 6. It is interesting to listen to this, and it sounds just like the next 2 decades of female-led folk rock pop, from Melissa Etheridge to Shania Twain to whomever. It's just like, it's all there in Brass in Pocket. Matt, where is it for you?
Yeah, it's number 6 for me too. I love this song. As a matter of fact, this is the song that I have played in various bands, whether they're established bands or just get together like impromptu jams. I mean, everybody knows this song. Everybody loves this song. Great vocals, great hooks. Another song that this reminds me of course, comes in a later album, the Get Close album. It always kind of reminds me of Don't Get Me Wrong, which is a great poppy song too. And the 2 songs to me are very similar. And I don't know if I like one better than the other, but yeah, the part I don't like about this song is when she goes, the bridge, Gonna get my thing, gonna get my finger, gonna get my dinner. That part is always a little annoying to me, but I like the rest of it. So if it wasn't for that, but you got to have something in the middle to break up the song. I don't know. I think the burnout factor on this is why I have it at number 6. Kind of like
possible.
Chris was saying, he didn't want to put it in his top 3, but he was just being true to himself, which actually brings up a question with this whole exercise. Are we ranking these songs from 1 to 12, what we consider the best to the least best, or are we doing it what we prefer?
It has to be preference. Yeah,
right.
There's no objective.
Except for Private Lives.
Yeah, right.
Except for Private Life.
That one's number 12.
If it was like if I thought like if I objectively looked at this album, that would be a top 3 song because I think it's a top 3 best written song, right? But yeah, the burnout factor, played it a bunch of times, heard it on the radio a bunch of times, still like it, but you know, doing this exercise, I just found 5 other songs that I preferred. So it's number 6.
Already, I know I'm going to be an outlier on this next track. It's called Lovers of Today. I found it's not my number 12, but I found it even more boring than Private Life. The only thing that puts it above for me, Private Life, is that 3 minutes and 50 seconds in, the guitars are doing 2 kind of different things. And it's really cool, and it reminds me of the emo albums I listened to in the in the early 2000s, kind of Clarity era Jimmy Eat World for like they probably listened to this record, and that kind of took me back. Even though those were the tracks I would probably skip on those records, like I liked what the guitar, one guitar is going dunk dunk dunk, and one is going dee doo dee doo dee doo. I thought that part was cool, but the rest of the song I found dull. It's my number 11. Chris.
It's number 11. So you're not too far an outlier.
Okay.
I wrote down long and slow, a bit boring, but then when I listened again, I'm like, but it's a nice ballad. Like the lyrics are like, that's what I think put it above Private Life for me. Is that the lyrics of this one, I was like, okay, I felt like if this song was one I knew the story of, if I knew like it was written for so-and-so and it had this great meaning, I would maybe appreciate it more. But as far as this album went, I was like, it's just another long, slow, but better than Private Life song. So that said, when I said I had my 11 and my number 12 were pretty quick to decide. And it was these
I thought
2.
You said you already picked your 11. Okay, great.
No, yeah. So this one, this is my number 11. And it was easy. It was an easy number 11 compared to that number 12. Because I think the gap between 11 and 12 on this album is a country mile and a half, right? It's just big. It's but yeah, I think this one, same thing I said for Private Life. If Private Life would have been shorter, would have it been better? I think if this song would have been shorter, it would have definitely been better. I think if they could have cut this one down a little bit.
Great points made there. Number 9 for me, and I really do like the song, but you hit the nail on the head. Too long, too much fat, too much repetition. I talked a little about her vibrato in the song Kid. Now here it's a little too pronounced. It's a slower, softer song, but it's too obvious and spread out and a little annoying actually. But there's that middle section about 2 minutes into the song where the guitar starts doing more of a staccato, do on those minor chords, and it gives it a little bit more energy, and you think, oh, maybe this is a slow burn song. It starts soft and it's going to go somewhere, but then it kind of peters out and tapers back to that's the peak of the song. And as much as I like that, I wish that was like a launch point for it to go to other places. And for 5+ minutes it should, right? But I do think it's a pretty song, and yes, if it was a 3-minute song, I think most definitely for me it would rank higher.
So I may have a confused look on my face. That's what I realized. I have 2 number 6s. So Mystery Achievement is, I will fix this in editing, my number. Mystery Achievement. So we already got a song about Space Invaders. Now we have one about the Xbox. So ahead of their time, the Pretenders. Matt, I don't know where this one ranked for me. Where did it rank for you though?
Yeah, this one I was kind of going back and forth with Brass and Pocket because I had this at 5 and then I had Brass and Pocket at 6, and I switched it actually in the middle of this video. I switched it because Chris made a really compelling argument, and then you came back with 6, Jacob. So I'm like, okay, Brass and Pocket is 6. So this actually ended up at number 5. It's too long. However, it's just so hooky. It's got the punk elements from the side 1, but it's got the new wave flavor of side 2, and it's got the pop elements. if it wasn't 5 minutes, it probably would crack my top 3, but it really is a great song.
This is my number 5. Like you, if I hold up my notes here, you'll see lots of scratches out. That's because Mystery Achievement was moving around the charts throughout my trying to rank it. At one point, I had it at 4. I thought about a 3. Ultimately, ended up at a 5. But my 3, 4, 5, honestly, could be any order. That was probably the hardest part for me on ranking these. I think the mystery achievement of it is what you already said, is that it's got a little punk, it's got a little pop, it's got a little new wave, and it somehow worked all together. I don't know if that was meaningful, that track 12 was mystery achievement, like we managed to put an album together that encompassed all 3 of these genres. I'm an English teacher, maybe I'm reading into this too much.
All right, Chris, as our guest, what are your top 3 tracks?
My number 3 was Brass and Pocket. So I mentioned before, I was trying to figure, can I really put this in my top 3? And when I started thinking about my top 3, it was my 3. So for the same reasons that you all said already, not overplayed, but burnout, and everybody knows it. And I liked it, but I didn't love it compared to the other 2. So I'm like, so that's number 3 for me. Number 2 was Stop Your Sobbing. Like I said, I like that it was a cover, but it wasn't a cover. They really made it their own. And I think in recording this, I think I figured out what I like about my number 1, Kid, what I liked about it. And I don't remember which one of you said it, that it had an REM like feel with the guitar. And I think that's as Jacob that said that, I think that's why I liked it. I think that's why I like the song. I really do like REM. I like that 80s, that new wave alternative style and sound. And I think that was probably, I think back about it, I'm like, yeah, I think that was it. I think that was it for me. But yeah, it was tough. This is a good album.
I'll go next, and everyone should the viewer should just look at my list up here because it'll be corrected. Number 3 is Stop Your Sobbing. Number 2, Tattooed Love Boys. And number 1 is the first track on the album, Precious. My precious.
All right, my number 3, I have Kid. Yeah, just everything Chris said, I love about it. Number 2, I have Up the Neck. I'm the outlier on that one. And my number 1, also the outlier, I've got The Weight.
All right, Chris, we warned you. This is our spinner wheel, or picker wheel, and we spin it. And will give us a prompt to end our conversation on. Oh.
All right, well, first off, do you guys know what the singles are? Because there were 4 off this album.
We've already talked about Stop Your Sobbing.
Yes.
Brass and Pocket.
Yes.
Brass and Pocket, and Kid was a single, right?
Yep. So there's one more.
Was it The Weight?
Nope.
It wasn't Mystery Achievement, was it?
I think it's Precious. Now I have the best.
This does say Precious. Okay.
I have Best of the Pretenders, and it's like a, I don't know, 16-track single CD. And it's funny because half of the songs on that Best of Pretenders are off the debut. Because Tattooed Love Boys is on the best of, I know. Up the Neck is on the best of. Mystery Achievement's on the best of.
So when you have 4 singles, when you have 4 singles off an album, that's a pretty well covered carcass, or pretty chewed over.
This if you're curious, because I was, Stop Your Sobbing, January 79, Kid, June of 79, Brass and Pocket, November 79, and Precious was in 1980.
What were the B-sides? That's a whole other conversation. Yeah.
Do we disqualify the B-sides because they're part of the single package?
So I was gonna say The Weight was the probably my pick, but it was the B-side for Stop Your Sobbing. Stop Your Sobbing. But I mean, just because it's a B-side doesn't mean it shouldn't have been the A-side, and they should have shoved something else there.
You eliminate B-sides, it only leaves you with 4 songs, 2 of which are Lovers That Stay and Private Life.
Yeah,
which leaves us with 2 songs.
Yeah, so maybe the picker wheel chose a bad topic, but of the 4 that were not, I think the most radio friendly one would have been the weight. But that's my vote. We have an actual radio. Did you ever do programming? Did you ever have to pick what the
I
single
did.
was?
Yeah, I still do. I still work with kids. We review new music every week, 75, 80 releases that get sent to us, of which 75 to 79 are
Yeah.
They're not bad. They're just usually not good. But I'm gonna put a little asterisk on my I would say up the neck, but a big asterisk of it would have to be cleaned up, of course, for make it radio friendly. But I think it's the punk. I think it's like the punk sound that would have that I think people would have liked that one. And when I first heard it, I was like, this would be a good radio song, except that it can't. There's no way. And I don't know if you could clean it up enough to play.
There's nothing. I mean, there's nothing. Maybe volt. It doesn't use any of the 7 words.
That's true. That's true.
It talks about something sticky in the carpet, but that could be gum. That could be anything. I'll go with up the neck for our hypothetical situation. Chris, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Next time I produce an album you're reviewing, I'm happy to come back. You get a Sex Pistols or Pink Floyd in there. I think my alter ego was on. So, but no, this was, like I said, this was great. I'm so happy to have joined you. And thank you for the invitation. I get to teach this stuff. I don't get to do it very often, so it's nice to be on the fun side of things as opposed to the teaching side of things. So thank you.
Thank you all for watching. Please like, rate, and subscribe to the channel. We don't really have an ending. If you can help us come up with a tag, Chris, that would be great. We just do this waving thing.
I'll work on that.